we don't charge for our CRM. So it's included with our AI. So that makes it really compelling. You have the central infrastructure, which is understanding like key core concepts of renting and apartments. And then you have the branches of conversations, and then the branches of conversations lead out into the property level conversations as well. When somebody becomes a resident, our AI turns into a resident concierge.
Okay, we're here with Rebecca, or as she just told us, Rebs, which is a nice nickname. But Rebecca, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Rebecca Kravitz. I'm the director of partnerships at Elise AI. Been here for 2.5 years. So yeah, it's a little bit about me.
Before we get too far in, I've had a question about the brand change. If you've been there 2.5 years, it was Meet Elise. When did you guys move to Elise AI?
Yeah, we moved to Elise AI, I want to say around 1.5 years ago or so. I think we just wanted a brand refresh. We wanted us to feel more like a tech company. I think, it was just where we got started with the Meet Elise brand, and we were evolving as an organization.
Well, it's not a big change, so it's Elise sticks in your head, so that's fine. I was just curious about that. And then I'm always interested because we haven't had to go, well, we actually did go through one rebrand. The first Digible, right? Wouldn't you call the first Digible logo before we had Emerson?
Oh, yeah, the look.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not the name itself.
Yeah, not the name itself.
Yeah. And I'm glad we did.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's way better now.
Yeah.
The first one, I mean, it was as if I drew it with crayons.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looked like one of my daughters did it, but hopefully that person that built that has never listened.
Yeah, and hopefully your daughters aren't listening either.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, well, Rebs, give us the elevator pitch for Elise, for those that don't know, and then we'll go into centralization.
Sure. So just to give a little bit of background, to give you both a better understanding, we started in 2017 as actually the first leasing AI product over email and text message. So essentially what we do is we will reply to every single lead that comes in through like an ILS or a property website within a few minutes, and we'll engage back and forth like a real person. And the goal is ultimately to schedule a tour or get an application signed or just bring leases in faster and take the tedious admin off of the leasing team's plate. We've since evolved, so now we are the first end-to-end solution that does everything from leasing to resident. And so we've also built a CRM that connects everything, but we handle the full scale conversation over email, text, voice, and chat for renewals, delinquency, maintenance conversations, as well as the leasing side. So it's creating this like continuity and making this basically super leasing agent that's, working 24/7. So that's a bit of background.
Yeah, well, that's super helpful background. We had met you guys. I was trying to look up the names real quick, but when I think it was Optech, maybe like 3-4 years ago.
I think it was in Maryland.
Okay.
I think it was in DC. I think it was still Meet Elise, but they had a booth across from us.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And at the time, you guys had just been text and lead handling, but you guys, what's exciting is how much you guys have still pushed, your product development. So tell us a little bit about the decision, at least as you're aware, of going into making a CRM, because until this morning before we were recording, that's the first I'd heard of it.
Yeah. So the CRM actually came about probably when I was about 5 or so months in. I think we realized that we didn't want to be completely dependent on, integrating with other systems. We wanted to, have a little bit more control, but really it was kind of a slow, gradual process in shipping that product. I think, we wanted to learn as much as possible from end users to make sure that we created like the best intuitive CRM possible based on leasing agent workflows to minimize the number of clicks. And so that's kind of the inception of the CRM. And since we've put a lot of, research development time into that product and growing it.
Do you end up getting any, does that end up becoming an objection when you talk to clients? Because just putting myself in the shoes of the property management company, I might be like, oh, I need a bot, right? That's what they think, right? And so then you're like, well, cool, but we're way more than a bot, and as you're describing it. And then when you're like, and we're a CRM, I could see them being like, oh, shoot, this is a much bigger project than I just wanted a bot. Or does it end up being like a nice expansion opportunity where they're like, yeah, sure, you can start with our bot, and then you'll see how awesome it would be to have the rest of our stack.
So what's interesting is we don't charge for our CRM. So it's included with our AI. So that makes it really compelling. It's like, hey, you get this awesome AI that does all of these things. And then also you have the, perfect interface to work out of without having to pay more. Also, I would say people coming to us for just a chatbot, those were conversations that I probably had maybe, a year and a half ago, but now AI has really picked up steam and everyone's feeling like they don't want to get left behind. I mean, at the end of the day, if you have buildings nearby our buildings that have Elise AI and they're answering all the leads within a few minutes and you're averaging a 25-hour response time, you're spending all this money on marketing and then you're not getting conversions. And then you have leasing agents complaining that they're not getting enough leads. So I think people are really moving away from like the chatbot conversation.
Yeah, well, it's super needed. On our side, on the marketing side, we built a call tracking system so we can monitor when are people answering the phone, when are they not. And across the board, on average, we see about 60% of leads that get sent to the property do not get answered.
Yeah.
And so to your point, like you need someone there because you could get 60% more leads theoretically, right? If you just picked up the phone more. So that makes sense to me. And also when we had done studies in the early days, most folks, so this is data that's like 5 years old, but the customers that we were looking at from an ILS lead coming in, the average ILS lead wasn't getting reached until 72 hours. Yeah. So if you leave 3 days, if you can imagine a prospect, they're like, I'm looking now. So they need someone to respond. They want someone to respond right away. Yeah. So I think that's a super need, but I could see people like, I was just thinking that the CRM aspect could throw them off. That said, it sounds like they don't have to use the CRM. Exactly. It's like, hey, it's included. We still integrate with the other systems and it will work normally. But it's almost like once you get a taste of ours, you may find some cost savings by dropping your other CRM.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to, force people into anything or rip and replace any systems. I think that's where you enter the zone of resistance, I like to call it. But when it's kind of just there and you're using it anyway on a day-to-day basis, they're being exposed through using our AI. And so it's creating this almost organic adoption, I would say.
Cool. Well, then you had mentioned to us offline that you guys are putting quite a bit of focus on centralization. So give us the rundown. How does Elise help with the centralization?
Yeah. So I've noticed two things in the industry. One route is people will centralize some of their teams, so leasing, delinquency, renewals, and then they'll adopt our AI. Those companies tend to be very forward-thinking, and they tend to roll out our product extremely fast because they have all the operations in place. Then the other side of the coin is the majority of our customer base, which, they have the traditional leasing agents on site, and then they will adopt our AI, maybe full stack, full bundle, right? And then they'll start to centralize their operations afterward. What we do, especially with our CRM, that's very novel, is we allow the ability for groupings. So our customers can group properties together so that, let's say you have a centralized delinquency team or renewals team or leasing team, you can group a subset of properties and see all the handoffs in one queue. Same within the calendar and within the whole dashboard. And you can customize your user permissions too. So you're only getting access to the properties that you oversee. So we're creating a very specialized, centralized CRM that pairs really nicely with our AI.
No, it's just refreshing to hear. I don't know if competitors are keeping up with that, but we've talked about that many times. It's just like the bots, when they first started, were just so linear, like both in function, but also just that one website or that property. And it just seems like that's not a great user experience. If I'm looking for a property and you happen to have several properties within a specific market, why not include those like in my experience? So, and that's just one asset of what you're talking about. I'm curious with all the value, I guess, now that Elise is bringing, what do you lead with as far as KPIs or setting expectations with owners? Because obviously there's cost savings, there's benefit to the renter, there's benefit, to the on-site team. So what does that sound like as far as where you lead with value and setting expectations?
Yeah, so I would say, it kind of depends who I'm talking to. I always like to dig into what their current pressing challenges are in that moment and what they're looking to solve. I would say one of the things I love to lean into heavily is to tell people to think a little bit about some of the other leading tech companies in the world, right? Think Uber, think Amazon. We actually just hosted our first Elise AI customer event last week. And it was really awesome. And we really leaned into this when our CEO, Minna Song, talked about this a bit. But we call it the Uberfication, right? So what that is getting whatever you want when you want it on your timeline. This sense of instant gratification. We have to understand, right? We're now having people move in that are different generations, Gen Z. We're targeting millennials with a lot of these apartments too. And everybody has these short attention spans. And the market is becoming very competitive. So the economic climate is changing dramatically. And people are now reaching out to maybe like 9, 10 communities at a time. So the faster you hear back from someone, the more likely you are to end up leasing and going and seeing it. And it's not just about getting back to someone. And I think this ties really nicely back to just the AI word in general. It's become a buzzword at this point. Everybody calls themselves AI, and it's hard for companies to break through
quite literally
the noise. Yeah. But yeah, I forgot where I was going with that.
Well, that's
okay.
Just the value, what you lean into, and setting expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know if it's shifted more, because I feel like it started with like leasing agent and cutting out like 50-60% of like the minutia that they deal with.
Right.
And now maybe it's moved more towards centralization and operations.
Yeah.
And part of that depends on who you talk to.
Right.
But
economic climate. So I think one of the big things people are leaning into right now is like people's budgets are getting cut significantly. And also turnover is like at an all-time high at all times, probably, right? For site teams on staff. So if you can have the best leasing agent in the world that's like answering all the time, that's cross-selling, that's creating automatic wait lists based on people's preferences and doing all of these robust things, then you are set up for success. And maybe you can rewrite the script on how many units per property is necessary per leasing agent. So maybe that's the way to kind of dip your toes into centralization is, okay, instead of assigning 100 units to a leasing agent, we can look to change the model and promote our top performing person and then do, let's say, 200 or 300 units per agent as like a baby step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were having dinner. I think this will help build some credibility with the effectiveness of the system because because of the buzzword, like as you're saying, AI, I think a lot of people like myself are skeptical often of like, okay, is this really effective? And there's so much noise because there's so many competitors. It feels like in your space. Are
you going to go fish fraud?
No, I wasn't going to go fish fraud. But we were having dinner last night with one of your clients, and they said that, for example, the voice component, so where someone, instead of entering the classic phone tree where they're hitting like press 1, press 2, press 3, which Reed knows I hate. It's like when I used to have to call Bank of America. I was like, he
has a strong allergy to IVRs.
Me too, honestly. So annoying.
Yeah.
But what was super exciting, the client had said that they have only a 6% rate where a lease needs to pass on to an agent, where basically a lease can't answer what the caller needs, and then it goes to a human. So is that typical?
Yeah.
Or is that, I'm just curious.
We heard just to add to this like 60%, just a couple of years ago, not specifically with Elise AI, but that was more common as far as when the handoff needed to happen, and to hear that it's now 94%.
Yeah. AI has advanced substantially since I started, right? And also we've created this brain within our AI that's actually outward facing to our customers, and it gives them a lot of control. It's called knowledge, and knowledge is being constantly updated and pulling data that's updated within PMSs and systems. But also anytime somebody answers a handoff in our CRM, which is one of the value adds of it, we actually add that information into knowledge. So the AI is learning from everything it can answer and then ingesting it. And then we create like approval flows within the knowledge bank. So you can have maybe a community manager, community director approve the new bits of knowledge.
That's interesting. This is a more of a specific question, but how much is it learning off of your unique property or assets versus it's a shared learning amongst all of your clients?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I will tie this back to my favorite analogy, which I mentioned at our event. I did a centralization panel actually with a handful of customers. I like to call it like the octopus approach. The reason being is because an octopus has, the centralized brain, right? The centralized brain has a bunch of like neurons firing, and then each tentacle has its own like mini brain. So it actually has its own brain within the tentacles. And I like to think of that as like the branches out within centralization. And so that's the same thing with the AI and how it works is you have the central infrastructure, which is understanding like key core concepts of renting and apartments. And then you have the branches of conversations, and then the branches of conversations lead out into the property level conversations as well. So it's like a spiraling out.
It's a great analogy.
Do you like how she had to teach us about Octopus first? And then
I'm a big fan of octopuses, mainly because of the Netflix documentary. You had no idea how smart these things really are. We could be seeing another brand change here. That Rebs is breaking right now in front of us.
So,
Octopus
that's the
AI.
dream.
Do you feel guilty then of last night with our Mediterranean?
I didn't know octopus was in there.
Oh, there was an item.
It's delicious. I lived in Spain. I lived in Spain for a couple of years. It is called pulpo, and it is delicious. I'm wondering, as we kind of are on a bit of the branding discussion, what about personality with Elise? Mm-hmm. So how much personality? Because people I think laugh at Alexa, or used to. Maybe they're still laughing, but at how they're trying to evolve the personality. Is that even a discussion at Elise AI, or?
I would say, we definitely can create personas. That's something we've like looked into for sure. Is like letting our customers choose from different personas.
But that makes me think about the octopus. It's like, does the tentacles like flow out and have different personalities or personas? And how important is that even ethically, like for people that are engaging? And you'd assume with Zers, Gen Z, of course, they know that this is AI, but just like their comfort level and like, oh, is this really, a leasing agent, or is this, am I just talking to a bot?
So people actually have no idea. That's like the coolest part about our product is like, people at our event were just saying constantly that they're getting, flowers and gift cards and asked on dates. Like that's really common with our AI because people have no idea that they're just like, oh my God, somebody is responding and is communicative with me. Like in this day and age, I'm getting ghosted all the time. So.
Wow. Well, if you're not in the industry, then why would you know?
Yeah, I know that this was a concern in the early days where some clients wanted them to know that it wasn't a real human. And it sounds like many of your clients don't care anymore and don't want.
Yeah.
So, it used to be that there was an option that clients could say that it could give a notification saying like, hey, I'm a helpful agent or whatever. Is that still the case, or do you guys just go straight?
We don't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're very much, we provide the opt-out, we're compliant, we have SOC 2 compliance and everything, but we haven't seen that there's like a value add unless somebody's like, no, we absolutely need this. Right. Disclose immediately that this is AI. In California, it is state law to disclose that we're AI on the chat specifically.
Yeah.
So we do that and are compliant with the laws per state. But when it's not needed, we don't necessarily need to do that.
Yeah, I could see it being more of like a fear of a client where they're like, well, why do you need to disclose? Well, because if it sucks, I want them to understand it was a bot and for them to have low expectations. But once you build their confidence of like, look how effective this was, or if it's even better, as you said, but earlier you said if you could have the world's best leasing agent. So in this, once they realize it is basically better than any of the staff, then why not just like let it do its thing?
Yeah. Totally.
Regarding the rest of the workflow, you had mentioned that that you guys differentiate yourselves compared to many of the other agents because you've now moved into their handling all the way to move in. So could you just speak a little bit more to that effect and what you guys help reduce there?
Yeah, so it's actually past move-in. So on the resident side, we're now having conversations with, operations and maintenance folks. And the reason being is because, when somebody becomes a resident, our AI turns into a resident concierge. So we'll reach out over text to everybody in their software. That's a resident and say, hey, I'm Jesse. I'm your resident assistant. Let me know if you need help with, maintenance, payment, or have any other questions about the property, and I'm here to support you, you can save this number and text me back if you need anything. And then what's really cool about it is if anyone responds and they have questions about the community, if they want to reserve the pool, we can assist them. All of this can live in knowledge. If they want to create a maintenance ticket, we actually have functionality to create a maintenance ticket from the text directly in Yardi, Entrata, Resman, RealPage, and then actually provides status updates to that resident. We actually just came out with a new feature yesterday where we can read maintenance tickets in all these systems and send proactive messages on status updates, even if they didn't create the ticket through us. So we're trying to create as much engagement as possible with these people so that they know, hey, I'm here to help make your life easier. I will communicate with you and get you what you need. And customer service is everything, right? And then we also do the delinquency AI and the renewals AI. And the renewals AI will be similar to delinquency, where we send proactive messages based on what we're reading within the PMS. So we can actually read the ledgers and then send proactive communications, letting them know, hey, your rent is due. Here's your late fees. It's due on this date. And then renewals is quite similar in terms of being able to help generate the new offer and whatnot.
Yeah, that's exciting.
It's super exciting. I mean, it's the single point of contact that we have for our company that clients like so much. I'm sure residents would as well. Is it too early to ask about where the most usage is happening?
Yeah, I mean, I would say leasing is the legacy product, right? But we've seen the largest probably uptick in the delinquency AI. It's all sold as one resident AI because they're all interconnected. We don't want to be asking people to pay and then not answer their maintenance questions because then we'll piss people off. So it's all resident AI. But I would say that side of it is growing in popularity because we've actually started doing a lot of outreach and conversations directly with ownership groups. We just want to go to the people that own the properties and say, hey, is your delinquency an issue? And they're like, yes, we need this.
Yeah, no doubt. So what about retention? Has this been able to show? I mean, it's kind of hard to normalize that sometimes, but I can imagine if I lived somewhere like that and had, access to 24/7 support, that would be pretty sticky. I wouldn't necessarily want to leave that property.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you guys are starting to look at some of those metrics too.
Yeah, absolutely. That is really, I think, the nice complementary component of maintenance tied to renewals. Maintenance is probably the biggest friction point in the resident experience. So if somebody's not getting their maintenance needs met on a timely basis, they're going to be frustrated with the community and not likely to renew. So we're starting to see that because we're connecting maintenance and renewals conversations, people are having a better experience overall, and we're increasing renewal rates. Some of the times I'm working at this company and things are happening so quickly, I'm like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Did we just build another new product? It's wild.
One more question. Since you mentioned renewals, if I want to negotiate my renewal, is that an example where the handoff happens? So when we talk 6%, what is the leasing agent still typically getting involved with? Would that be an example?
Yeah. So in its current state, I believe it would be an example, but we are building the capabilities. The AI is going to be able to negotiate very shortly.
Yeah, that would be amazing, right? Because then not that salespeople want to hear this, but kind of taking that negotiating away from them. And it's we know where we're going to hold the line. You just program it. And then the, virtual AI is the bad guy or bad girl, whatever. That sounded funny, but you know what I mean?
AI is doing everything.
That's pretty incredible. Is there something that we missed as far as what you mentioned, how fast it's all moving, but what might be next beyond this? I mean, because this is already as you said, end to end. So it seems like this could take, years, right?
Yeah. Well, I think one thing to note is the difference between Elise AI and other companies that use the word AI that might have derived as chatbots or might have, started as CRM products. They don't have the, our CEO, for example, she went to MIT, met our CTO at Cambridge, and the bar for machine learning and engineering talent is extremely high at our organization. And so that is why we've been able to build and produce products at a rapid pace. We ship products when we get big requests in a few weeks. I've worked at 2 other tech companies, and I've never seen engineering team work as quickly and actually execute and deliver exactly what our customers need. And, I think it's also the synergy between our teams and how sales and product and engineering works together. We do a good job of listening to our customers, understanding what they need, and then solving their problems in a few weeks by liaisoning between product and eng. But I would say the biggest push, obviously, having completed the end-to-end solution, will be moving into handling the application flow, and then also just building out the bells and whistles with Elise CRM. It's extremely novel, the CRM that we've built. Nobody else has the machine learning backend that we have, where it's constantly ingesting new information. So, and it's free and included with our AI. So I think we're really making, a difference there and changing the game once people start adopting the full stack solution. And then people can also, consolidate their systems, which I think is what I'm hearing the most about today.
Yeah, it's very cyclical. People consolidate and then they start to fragment and consolidate again. So the market's all in different customers are in different parts of that journey of this cyclical cycle. Well, thank you for the time today, Revs.
Oh, one more question. Expansion. Are you guys looking, and has it already happened, to go outside of North America? Or, because I'd be very curious how this would transfer, right, to, Europe or even Asia.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously the countries where our AI speaks a few languages today, but you would need like boots on the ground, probably someone from the New York office to head overseas. There's still so much opportunity in the US. There's about 12 million affordable units out there. We're tapping into affordable today and doing a lot of work. And that's really kind of was our initial, I think, or the CEO's initial mission, was just to help people find housing.
Affordable
faster.
Housing. Yeah. That's great.
So we're really excited about that. And then there's also a massive single family market that we're tapping into today as well. Canada, I think, is our neighbor. So we'll head over there. And then I think the UK and Germany, we've, sussed out that student is a really good population to go after there. But, one foot in front of the other, there's still plenty of multifamily groups to work with here in the US as well.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Thank you.
Well, if people want to learn more, what's the best way for them to approach Elise?
Yeah, they can definitely reach out to my email, which is rebecca@eliseai.com. I'm on the road a lot, so I would love if they loop in sales@eliseai.com, just so we can make sure that somebody gets back to them as soon as possible. It's funny because when I started my sales career, when I was at the commercial prop tech company, I would always joke that I was like an AI, because anytime an inbound would come in, I was just so hungry. It doesn't matter what time it was. It would be like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. I'd answer people like instantly. And I think that's what has helped me grow this company, is almost my like own AI mindset of being so quick to answer people. And so it shows that, that works.
It does work. Yeah, we had the same experience.
You got to change that email to Rebs. You got to.
I'll let the boss know.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Rebecca. We appreciate it.